Now, this is a story about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I like to take a moment just to sit right there to I'm going to tell you how a hedgehog ruined my hair. Haha, I'm just joke kidding. A hedgehog didn't ruin my hair. I shaved it off during my times on the mushroom planet. So you're probably wondering who the heck I am. Well, I'm glad you asked. The name's Robotnik. Dr. Robotnik. Let me ask you this. Have you seen a film called Oliver and Company? If you haven't, well, I honestly can't tell you. Why? It's because you people outside this world love with other Disney films, such as The Lion King, Enchanto, Frozen, and others. What is that? I insulted you? My bad. Oliver and Company is one of my favorite Disney movies that I worked on during my time in Disney Funnypasta universe. I was a creative assistant to the producers for films like The Rescuers, The Great Mouse Detective, and of course, I was an artist for most movies. When I drew Jenny Foxworth for Oliver and Company, the director of the movie announced that it would be an animal version of Oliver Twist instead of being faithful to the original novel. I was kinda happy that George Scrivener was accepting my character idea, and oh boy, I fell in love with the character I drew. Thanks, Jenny. What a lot people don't know was that there was going to be a second Oliver and Company movie. However, the film was not released in theaters or sent straight to video. It is because the story I'm about to tell you is messed up. You see, the sequel to Oliver and Company is rather a lot of crossovers it did and swearing in it, so you won't be able to find this tape anywhere since I don't want George to lose his shit about to being the tape kept by me. Anyways, it all started back in the summer of 2021. Most Disney films like Raya and the Last Dragon were bombarding the box office. My theory is that families don't want their children to get sick into the movie theater from this, virus going on. So the studio was in production of the new movie, was yet to be announced. At the end of the day, everyone else was going home. But me and 5 other employees named Sam Bransberry, Jeremy Bakewell, Killian, Jenny Wakeman, and Captain Kitty were asked to stay for 30 more minutes. Our boss happened to be Thomas the Tank Engine, said that the health inspector would be coming to the Disney studio in about 7 days, so he would want us to clean up our office rooms, receive a good rating. Jenny Walkman and I cleaned the room together. As we cleaned, we had both of the discussion about Oliver and Company being on Disney+. She said that she wants an Oliver and Company series to be made for the streaming services so that her pet cow Rel would stop dancing to Good Company 24/7. Meanwhile, I went over to my office and cleaned it. The last thing I cleaned up was the drawer to my stash line, which had some non-Disney films like the Care Bears movie, Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, Madeline 1997, Barnyard and the Adventures of Elmo and Grouchland. And that was until I saw something rare that I have never owned in my life. I apparently had received an early birthday present from my boss Thomas. The present looked like a DVD case, so I opened up the present and it turned out to be a DVD of Jenny Foxworth on the cover. In my eyes, I believed it was an Oliver and Company DVD. It looked rather strange. The Oliver and Company DVD had Oliver and Company 2, Jenny's Really Weird Days, written on in a red Sharpie on the cover. Jenny had the face of Mr. Incredible, as she was also looking down at her feet. I assumed that the cover looked like it was written by a fan art person or something. I took a look at the back of the DVD, and it had what looked like a warning saying, "Warning, do not view this DVD anywhere to the public. Don't even upload clips of it from the film on YouTube, because if you do, you Robotnik will lose your job and be fined $400,000. I felt my heart in my throat, considering the fact that the DVD knew my name and I would be fined with a huge amount of money. After looking at the DVD cover, I stepped into my boss's office, asking what the heck this DVD was. He claimed that he had crafted a DVD for my birthday, which was coming up in 2 weeks, and he knew that I'd be enjoying watching Ralph Breaks the Internet. He also made the entire movie by himself, despite being a train. I had thanked him for the present and asked him if I could bring the DVD home with me. Thomas said yes, and I told him that I would be leaving for the day. Before making my way home, I stopped at a local McDonald's to order some dinner. The cashier for tonight was a robot named Text. I ordered a quarter pounder with cheese, but without the pickles and onions, 10-piece chicken nuggets, and medium fries, and a high C. While waiting for my food to be ordered, I talked to these familiar people and animals like Richard Tanner, Sally, Susan Glink, Omar Suz, and Amy Alden. They were all in a discussion about an upcoming film called Enchanto. I told them that I worked for Disney, and as soon as I said that, Sally walked up to the cashier and said, "Hey employees, this bald man with a mustache works for Disney." Tex then gave me a Happy Meal for free, which I felt pleased for myself. Then I headed home and sat down on my couch. There was a very cool spot that nearly looked like a bed. The first thing I saw was a TV commercial featuring June from the Little Einsteins and Roy Hess from Dinosaurs singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." I never told you this, but I have a butler. Her name is Rachel Alcard. When she saw me, she said, "Good evening, Robotnik. Is that the DVD I see?" I told her about the DVD, and she inserted it into the DVD player. "Anything else for you?" Rachel asked while the DVD loaded. "Nah, you're good. I'll let you know when I can," I replied. Rachel then left the room by the time the Walt Disney Home Entertainment logo came on. It then showed some previews for older films like Cars, Peter Pan 2, Disc Special Edition, Bambi 2, The Little Mermaid, and Up. Then it cut straight to the menu, but the man on it looked horrible. It consists of Jenny Foxworth, Penny Peterson, Dee Dee, Millie Moleskov from Code Lyoko, and Riley Henderson at a birthday party because of the cake on the table. What looks like so disgusting about it, you may ask? Well, if you're scared to hear what I'm about to say, then go find something else to read. I looked at it through the sneak peeks for the menu and for a little bit, but when I got back to the menu, the characters were now engaged in a twerking section. I yelled to Rachel that I needed a bowl to vomit on. She arrived just in time as I puked came out of my mouth. Like my good friend Bob Newhart, I don't like it when gay people start doing weird monkey shit nowadays. It reminds me of R34 image I saw many months ago. Anyway, I hit play mode on the movie on the DVD menu, and it took me to what seemed to look like in the logo for Oliver and Company, with a black background. In the background I could hear a voice that sounded like Master Snake say this: "This is a secret missing sequel to Oliver and Company. It was never released in theaters or sent straight to video because it contained cussing, crossovers that are never owned by Disney, mature subject matter. Warning, it has to be your birthday to view this." Huh, what? How did the movie have to do with what I just mentioned? The next thing it showed was the Walt Disney Pictures logo. For the nostalgia, it was the old Disney logo from 1985 to 2006. As the words popped up on the screen, Billy Bob Tanley came out behind the castle and shouted, "Mickey Mouse is the mascot of an evil corporation." When he just said that, it reminded me one of that scene from the Simpsons movie where Bart is digging through people's luggage and pretend he's Mickey. It showed a view of the New York Once Upon a Time city in New York City in the background. However, instead of Huey Lewis, it was being sung by Randy Newman. Sure, some of the songs are covered by other artists, but in my opinion, the Huey Lewis version is much better. The opening credits consist of the buildings in New York City, kind of like the films that take over place in New York. After the credits opening ended, it cut to Jenny Foxworth playing a piano of Solo Can You Feel the Love Tonight by Elton John. All of a sudden, when the bus that Jenny goes to school on it shows up at the window. "Oh shit, the bus is here," Jenny shouted. I was shocked to hear that coming out of Jenny's mouth. Jenny then got out the door and ran for the school bus. Rather than the bus driving off, I got to see what the bus looked like from the inside. There were some boys and girls from the other media that were not owned by Disney. Suddenly, a tall man stepped out of the driver's seat. It was none other than Gunnery Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket. He looked at all the other students and said, "All right, maggots, listen up. I am your substitute bus driver. My name is Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, but you could call me Mr. Hartman. Now, I am gonna go around asking what your names are, and you will also tell me your age. Sure, asking a woman or a girl her age is wrong, but I'm doing it for the sake of information. You will not talk unless I ask you to. Do you asswipes understand? Yes, sir, the bus and the people on the bus said. Hartman walked over to Jenny and asked her for her full name and age. But after she described herself, Beavis and Butthead were laughing. Hey, I thought I told you to shut up until I talk to you. And stop laughing, you dumbasses. Butthead then laughed and said, You said that word. Sergeant Hartman then grabbed the duo by the neck and said, I said shut up. How would you like it to be thrown out of the bus? Beavis then said, You're talking to us. Coach Buzzcut then began to throw Beavis and Butthead out of the emergency exit and shouted, And stay out! You are banned from riding this school bus. The bus then drove off. Okay, now listen up. I'm gonna need to explain the rules. You will not laugh, you will not cry, you will not burp, fart, or crack your knuckles. There will be no talking, no pulling down the windows, and especially no vomiting. If you gotta vomit, hold it in, Hartman continued. The time title card popped up that said, 1 minute later. We then see Jenny, who is sitting by herself. Suddenly she told Sergeant Hartman that she needed to use the restroom. Hartman said, Hey, didn't I say no talking? Jenny then told him that she had to go to the bathroom real bad. So they stopped at the McDonald's at Times Square. It told Jenny that she just had a few minutes to go. Jenny then got off the bus and went to the nearest bathroom. Before entering one of the toilet stalls, a woman appeared to be Miss Tweedy asked, Are you one of those people on Mr. Hartman's bus? Jenny then replies, Yes. Are you the person who can help me escape? I need to use the bathroom and I want to go home. Miss Tweedy said, Leave that to me, but first I'll take your restroom break. Another time title card appeared and it said, 30 seconds later. Jenny left the bathroom stall and then Miss Tweedy said, Good, you're out. Now just step into this hole and I promise you it's not a kidnapping session. Good luck. She then just went into a hole and landed in the minecart. The minecart went to take Jenny home. The theme song to Indiana Jones was playing during this scene. After about 30 seconds, Jenny had arrived home, just in front of her piano. Winston, I'm home, Jenny shouted. Home already? No school today? Winston asked. Jenny said that school got canceled today because of how aggressive the bus driver was acting to children. She also said that the bus driver may be hunting her down. Winston then told Georgette that she was on duty in case of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman appears at the door. Meanwhile, at Times Square, there were a lot of cars. Taxis and buses were stuck in traffic. All because of all this stopped the school bus. Gunnery Hartman was angry and tired at the same time. Where the hell is she? Hartman shouted. I want one of you kids to go into the McDonald's and find Jenny. Hartman shouted. Once more, suddenly a girl named Oliver then told Sergeant Hartman, We don't like you. We hate your rules and we're calling out from the school. So long, sucker. As the kids got back into the bus and went to McDonald's for breakfast, Sergeant Hartman screamed. He screamed so loud, the F word, that it sounded like something was irritating him during the film. And I'm confused. Did they make this in 2011 or something? The world may never know. Hartman then said, I'm done driving this damn bus. As he walked away from the bus, a police officer by the name of Tom Schwowski said to him, Is that your bus right here? Because if it's causing traffic here in Times Square. Gunnery Hartman then told him to buzz off. In the sky, a UFO came and took the bus. I was surprised that none of the citizens were aware UFOs existed. Then it cuts back to Jenny's house, where Jenny was playing a track game remix of Heads Will Row on the piano. Georgette could be then seen looking out the window, either by searching for the police or Sergeant Hartman. Georgette said, Hey Oliver, do you think Jenny could be arrested? Oliver replied with, Why? She didn't do anything wrong. Overall, the bus driver is just being very aggressive with the other kids on the bus. Jenny then stopped playing her piano when she heard her cat Oliver talking. Her expression was the same face she made from when her parents were reading a letter about staying in Europe longer. Did you just talk? Jenny asked Oliver. I sure can, Georgette says, and she thinks that I belong back in Dodger's group. Jenny then said that whatever Georgette said about her, it wasn't going to happen. Suddenly, the door knocked and Georgette began to growl. Winston opened the door, and outside was Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. Georgette began to bark rapidly as she ate Hartman's pants off, to the point where we saw his underpants. "I get away from my owner, you asswipe! Go!" Georgette shouted. Hartman then ran away, telling the street, "That dog doesn't want to hurt anyone in the house to be arrested. Stay away!" Jenny then closed the door and went to the kitchen to feed Georgette and Oliver. She made her traditional Coca Krispies dish. Jenny then turned to the TV and saw the news report about several children skipping school because of their bus drivers. The news reporter was Millie Soloff, and she also explained the bus was parked, causing the traffic jams in Times Square. "Oh, don't you dare tell me that Millie will be visiting Jenny's house during this movie, because I need to get that out of my head. Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, the next scene. Jenny then goes upstairs to her bathroom and begins to shower. The steam coming from the water goes through the window. We finally see Dodger and his gang. However, something seemed off. Dodger's female friend Rita wasn't Rita at all. Instead, it was Kid Claude, the rapper who sings Stars in the Sky. "So, what you fellas feeling today?" Dodger asked the group. Tito spoke, but his voice sounded more angry German. "Gee, I don't know, Dodger. I'm kinda hungry. Let's go steal some food." Dodger and the gang then looked at Jenny's house and saw steam coming out of the window. Tito, still in his German accent, said, "Let me handle this. I'm sure that Jenny boy, I'm thirsty for some water." Tito then breaks the window, and that was in the piano room, and goes upstairs. Tito then got into the restroom, but was caught by Georgette. "Coming to scare Jenny in the shower?" Georgette whispered to Tito. "See, woman, you open the curtain, and I'll do the yelling," Tito replied. Georgette then got a stool as we see Jenny knew what she was doing in the shower. It was quite similar to the 1960 movie Psycho. Tito and Georgette were seen in the shadows, and when the dog duo opened the curtain, Tito screamed in a German accent, "What the hell are you doing?" Jenny screamed, but this made the scene was really messed up was that her body was shown. I was at the edge of vomiting again. But suddenly the scene abruptly cut to Jenny's room, with Jenny drying herself off. Tito and Georgette, what were you thinking? Jenny could have died if it was that scary, Oliver yelled to Tito and Georgette. Your owner has a good shower routine. That's why I scare her. Oliver then told Tito to get the hell out of his house. Tito then left the house and said, Dodger and the gang are still outside. You failed, didn't ya? Dodger said, See, man, Oliver kicked me out, so let's just leave him alone. Tito replied. The gang then walked away from the house. The scene transitions right to the time as we still see Jenny's place. Jenny was calmly sleeping on her bed, while Oliver could be seen eating Oreos on top of Jenny's dresser. Georgette and men began to walk into the room. Oliver, why do you have to eat the Oreos on top of the dresser? Oliver replied with, 'Cause it's my midnight snack. Now buzz off, you. Georgette then walked away, but then the sun came up and Jenny yawned. She got out of her bed and dressed, and what she made for breakfast was an oatmeal. Oliver and Georgette then walked in the kitchen and saw Jenny making breakfast. Oliver licked his face because he had Oreo stains on it. Jenny then sat down in her bowl of oatmeal and grabbed an empty box of Oreos. She soon realized that there weren't any cookies left, or any cookies in it. Which one of you idiots ate all my cookies? Jenny asked. Oliver then pointed to Georgette, who proved it was her. Then Jenny told Georgette that she was not going to receive any food for the next day as a punishment. Do you think that's rather cruel? Anyways, on to the next scene. We had to see Fagin's place, where he and Francis was watching language on nursery TV. I'm afraid of a lazy man named Bill. He's dead, and he'll stay dead, Fagin said. You still have those fears of that man, don't you? Dodger said. This was leaving me confused. How could animals communicate with humans? Oh, forget it. It's animation. Sometimes I do, but not that much. Fagin replied, as Francis was watching the video in the nursery language. He hit the eject button on the VCR. Excuse me, what the actual hell? Francis said. Tito said in his German accent, Phew, you're too old to be watching Baby Einstein. Watch some SpongeBob instead. The next scene then transitions to the school in New York City. Jenny is then seen walking to her classroom. As she walked into her room, I saw some characters who felt like they don't belong in the movie. Some of the characters happened to be Thumper from Bambi, Soapy Sakura from Capito Sakura, Coraline Jones, and Hearty Hare. Jenny then sat down and began drawing pictures that involved a music video to The Stars in the Sky by Kid Cod. Just then, and Dick Halloran then walked in the room. He was portraying the teacher. Okay, children, today we're going to be talking about a special place. It's called the Overlook Hotel. He then turned to the projector on the screen. It showed a picture of the hotel itself. Mr. Halloran then showed the pictures of what was in the hotel. But something very strange happened. The projector showed an image of Jack Torrance with his face in the broken door. Suddenly, his head in the picture began moving. Jack's body then came out of the projector as Jack was holding an axe and saying, "Here's Jackie!" The kids screamed and ran out of the room. Jack and Dick Halloran laughed for 5 seconds. Then Dick then shouted right in front of the school hall, "And that's what you kids get for causing traffic!" Jenny then ran to the principal's office. Jenny then said that Dick Halloran's body, Jack, was threatening to murder the students. The principal allowed Jenny to go home for the day, while he fired Dick for his actions. As Jenny walked out of the school, he saw Fagin on his bike, and Fagin said, "We heard everything, and Wince is taking a nap, so I'm bringing you home." Jenny got on his bike and drove off. "So care for some McDonald's?" Fagin asked. "Yes, please. I haven't ate lunch yet," Jenny replied. They drove off into McDonald's into a building they went. Then they noticed that there was a rather long line, mostly because it's because Times Square gets a lot of people walking around. Before Fagin and Jenny could place their order that they were next in line, Gunnery Sergeant Hartman grabbed Jenny by the shirt and said, "You!" And then continued to say, "You sick brat, I've lost my job because of your actions, and now I got a hold of you. It's time for you to say..." Hartman tried to finish his sentence when he was kicked by the nuts by Fagin. People then started booing at Gunnery Sergeant Hartman for what he is doing. One of the people shouted, "She's just a kid." The boss of the McDonald's, who appeared to be Mr. Badger, told Hartman that he was no longer allowed to eat at this kind of McDonald's. Mr. Badger told him that he will be calling the police for attempt to murder a kid. The police arrived just as soon as Mr. Badger hung up the phone. Jenny and Fagin got their meals as Fagin drove Jenny home. Oliver was glad that Jenny came home. "What happened to that school today? Someone did try to murder you?" Oliver asked. "Yes, Oliver. I don't think I would be going out in public this week. What do you think?" Oliver replied with, "Yeah, you should." The scene then cuts to Fagin's boat where Dodger, Einstein, and Tito were playing Dance Dance Revolution. That left me with several questions. What the heck is this animation? All of a sudden, Kid Cod then walked into the room. "Yo, bitches, you going on vacation for 2 weeks?" Tito, still in his German accent, asked, "Where are ze going?" Kid Cod replied with, "We're going to Georgia to meet the devil who went down there." Dodger gasped and said, "Kid Cod, have you been communicating with the devil? Tell Fagin that we're not supposed going because you mentioned Satan." Coddy then does tell Dodger that he was right and began to pull out the Bible. "If you gotta read the Bible, you gotta take it somewhere." Tito then told Kid Cod, and Coddy walked away with the Bible. "What is your problem?" Dodger asked. "Me no know," Tito said. All of a sudden, Oliver came in the room saying, "What's up, my lovely males?" Tito and the gang watches and they notice and welcome him in. "So what can we do for you, kid?" Dodger asked. Oliver proceeded to tell the dogs that Jenny almost got killed by her substitute bus driver at McDonald's, and she doesn't want to be in public till said otherwise. Dodger then said that they will do is they will battle the subway tracks and right, and when it transitions to Central Park at night, Jenny and Georgette were sitting on the bench. For some strange reason, I found this scene to have a dark atmosphere. Jenny pointed at the sky saying, "There it is, Georgette. There it is. A star that can only be used as a wishing star." Georgette then got a shocked expression as a shadowy figure appeared. "What's the matter, Georgette?" Georgette then pointed at the shadowy figure, who saw who it was. It was Sergeant Hartman. He said, "Peekaboo, 8-year-old." Hartman then picked up Jenny by the arms, and then Jenny did the same scream when she was kidnapped by Bill Skies. Georgette still had a shocked expression, but she kept watching Jenny being taken by Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. As soon as Hartman and Jenny left the park, Georgette began to grow tears from her eyes and ran away from the shot. Meanwhile, Oliver, Kid Cod, and the kids were walking the subway tracks, wondering where Hartman could arrive. "Sorry if I brought this to you, devil dodger," Kid Cod said. Don't worry about it. You're forgiven." In the distance, Georgette could be heard barking. "Is that Georgette?" Oliver asked. "We saw Georgette running close to them." Guys, Jenny was kidnapped. We gotta find her," Georgette said. "Don't worry, girl. We'll find Jenny," Dodger said. "Look, there she is," Tito said. "Come on, let's go get him," Einstein shouted. Sergeant Hartman and Jenny were finally on top of the bridge when Jenny was tied up, but not on a chair. "You slimy little shit. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. You have no respect for me. You already know what you did. It's too late for apologies, little girl. You're done for," Hartman shouted. "Hey, jackass," Oliver shouted. The dogs, including Oliver and Kid Cod, were growling as Dodger said, "Jenny did nothing wrong. Now either you let her go, or we're going to send you back to jail." Jenny got very angry to the point for some reason the ropes attached to her got broken, as if there was some super cyan. "How did you do that?" Einstein asked. "Oh, you'll see." All of a sudden, my theory became correct, as Jenny managed to scream like a super saiyan herself. Her hair changed from ponytail hair just to pointy, and then she just took a direct punch at Gunnery Sergeant Hartman. Then Hartman landed on the train tracks, as the subway train came closer to the point where Sergeant Hartman got killed off screen. "Well, that was brutal," Kid Cody said. "I couldn't get out of that trap without you guys," Jenny said. "Well, gang, let's get Jenny, Oliver, and Georgia home." They both got home as Jenny prepared to go to bed. The next scene then showed Jenny in the house in the morning. Jenny and Oliver woke up to make some breakfast, and Oliver turned on the TV in the kitchen while the same reporter, who was Millie Solveff, was on TV. The news report was about a disappearance of Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, who had broken out of jail last night and was murdered by a subway train. That guy sucked," Jenny said. Suddenly the phone rang, and she went to answer it. Turns out the person who was on the phone was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He then told Jenny that her parents were on a business trip in Japan, and the next person Arnold turned out to be Taco Fiance's Cricket of the Hearth. Jenny then thanked Arnold for the phone call, hung up, and Winston said to Jenny, "They are having a concert in Times Square." "Who?" Jenny asked. Jenny, Winston, Oliver, and Georgette went downstairs to Times Square and saw Fagin and the other dogs performing Why Should I Worry at this point. Everyone was starting to sing along as the camera started zooming out of the city. Soon the credits started rolling. The song that played in the background was Stars in the Sky by Kid Cod, but it was so vocoder to Gangsta's Paradise. After the credits, and soon after the last credit scene came in, it involved Jenny in a news report with a different news reporter. It was Sir Lenny Henry. Jenny was on the news so she could explain how she went Super Saiyan. And then after the closing version of the Walt Disney Pictures logo came on, I took out the DVD from the DVD player. I'll tell you, it was very strange, the missing sequel. Because of how it all went down and was so bad, it's in a good way. I decided to keep the DVD for my collection, so I went to the kitchen to get some dinner. Rachel cooked chili dogs with french fries and ketchup. Later on I went to bed, so the next morning I woke up to see a knock on the door. I was greeted when I opened it to be General Mascot. He then asked if the DVD had a copy of the missing sequel of Oliver and Company. I said no, and he started barging in my house. I hit his head with my fist and he got knocked out. However, I took the DVD with me. Mascot soon then noticed me and started chasing after. He then chased me all the way. It was similar to Mr. Waternoose from Monsters, Inc. Good thing I had kept my cell phone with me. I dialed the police and they arrived just a matter of 15 seconds. Apparently the officer looked young and her name was Diana Barry. I brought the DVD back to the house, kept it sealed shut in a case for a good reason, and there's a good reason to reveal it to the public. But I am going to show it to the public? Absolutely not. Later, painters. Well, my pretties, that was the secret missing episode, or missing sequel to Oliver and Company. A Oliver and Company lost movie creepypasta written by Ashley Armbruster. My final thoughts on this story. I gotta say, I haven't read any of Ashley Armbruster's stories in a really long time, actually. I mean, I don't remember when the last time I read one of their stories. I think it was a few months ago or something. But I definitely gotta say, I honestly really thought this one was actually a pretty good story. I do like the concept. I mean, it was a pretty good funny pasta. I mean, I did laugh a couple times before I actually, when I pre-read it, so I decided to go ahead and, read it you know, now because, it was that good. So, I guess with that being the case and that being said, I guess let's get started with, what my thoughts on. Pretty good. I honestly really like it. It's pretty amazing. And I definitely gotta say, I thought it was pretty neat. So I honestly have to say, I still find this story to be enjoyable. Sorry, I kind of paused for a moment because I was just trying to think of something else to say. But, it's all good now. So with that being the case, and with that being said, I'm going to sit here and just say, I honestly really like this story. It's epic, really good. It's really well made. Like, I mean, I was surprised when I first saw this story. Now, I mean, I know I haven't read any of his stories in a while, so yeah. I mean, the grammar is pretty good as well as the sentence structuring, the storyline, and all that. But I would suggest maybe there were a few grammatical errors. I did spot a couple of them in the stories, so I kind of struggled to, read something, but, I managed to, get through it and, all that. So the grammatical errors could be fixed up, but other than that, I mean, it's not a bad story. So I guess with that being the case, so that being said, yeah, despite the grammatical errors, this story was actually pretty fun to read. So, anyways, with that being said, and with that being the case, I'm going to sit here and just say right now that this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's perfectly fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story is definitely a 10 out of 10. I mean, it was enjoyable, well made. I really thought this was pretty fun to read. So I gotta say, Ashley Armbruster, you did a pretty good job with the story. So, anyways, with that being said, with that being the case, what did you guys personally think about this story? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what you have done personally to help make this story a lot better? Feel free to leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comments below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're brand new here to this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.